Hi everyone. I'm Christina McPhillips from Carl Bloom Associates. You are joining us for the second part of a three-part series where we are talking about digital tactics and strategies. We went from kind of a 101, getting started basics, and then now we're at 201, more intermediate, and then next week on Thursday at the same time, we'll have kind of an advanced group for our 301. I am joined again. Oh, before I get started with that, let me say we are recording this session. We ask that you chat your questions to us. We are a friendly group, so we are very happy to have conversations with you during this. Um, and if you have any questions about how you're running your program or want us to dive more deeply into anything, Luis and Chad will be very happy to do that. They are very talkative about this subject and we appreciate it. Okay, let me go into our speakers for today. So if you remember last week, we went with a theme of Legos and building. Well, now we're off to the races because this is for groups who are running ad campaigns already, a little bit more advanced. So now we're talking about zooming in our cars. We all got to pick our car. Uh, Chad is a Jeep Wrangler. Luis is also a Jeep Wrangler. I picked a Mini Cooper, and Jody, you're this nice Cadillac. You're in South Florida, so this one looks very appropriate for you. Today we will be talking about building better audiences, building better campaigns, and better results. And that comes from understanding conversions. We'll talk about that. Improving campaign performance, measuring what matters, avoiding common pitfalls. And again, ask us questions as we go along. All right, let me do a quick recap, and guys, feel free to jump in if you have any thoughts about this. So last week we talked about measuring, we talked about Google Analytics, we talked about website traffic. That is step one in any program. Do not pass go, do not collect $200 before you do these things. Then we talked about step two, building audiences in Meta, Google, maybe you have a Google grant. We also talked about creating engagement. So that's the content that your station already has. You have oodles of content, Passport, different programming, and then community stories. These are great examples of things you can use to create engagement. And then finally, we talked about fundraising, which is the final step after you've done all of these things. So that might be membership, things like Giving Tuesday or year-end appeals. And so if you are joining us today, what stage might you be at? You have already installed tracking. You've launched some campaigns. You have established a budget. You've started collecting data and you've built some initial audiences. But the main question we're going to ask today is, how do we improve performance and get better results? I am going to let the gentleman talk us through step one. What is a conversion?
Yeah. Just like continuing from last week, how do we improve and start, tracking everything and getting working it for us? And that's exactly what we got to understand. What is a conversion and how does it work in platform, right? So a conversion could be any type of conversion event that we can set up in platform. I'm going to use Meta as an example, right? So depends on what my goal is. If I want to get more video views like you have on the website, on the screen, and I want to get more visits, or if I want to get just more emails, those are conversion events that I can set up in platform. So with that said, I can set up different campaigns to achieve different type of goals. And then you have to understand how the platform works. So the platform optimizes its own self, meaning, oh, now I know where I'm going when it gets 50 conversion events. So depending on what conversion event you set, that's where the budget starts becoming a factor. So for example, if I need to get 50 sales, that's not going to happen in a day. But if I need to get 50 video views, it's going to happen in a day. So it depends on what the event is, on how you start optimizing it for it. So if you start setting up a campaign that you want to start it optimized, you would set it as a video view option. And as soon as you get 50 video views that pass a certain point, that's where the algorithm in Meta says, oh, so you're looking for these type of users. And it starts looking for more that share the same behavior. So that's where the conversion event starts taking shape in this whole funnel that it's the you want to call it the compass of where your campaigns are going. And how do we guide the compass? By adding interest targeting, and then letting the budget flow and seeing how it works, and then mixing in all the different type of campaigns. And so we get, those conversion events. Chat, you got anything there?
Honestly, I just want to reiterate the compass. This is a fantastic way to think about this, as you need to define your goal, and then what that will then lead you where you want to go. Because those algorithms, again, are very specific about how they look for people. And Luis, I think you did a fantastic job explaining that.
You? Very good.
I also did not know that fact about the 50 video views being necessary before you proceed and find lookalike audiences. That is fascinating. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
All right, let's talk about an example. A station is promoting a local documentary. What are we looking at?
So here, you have three different types of campaigns. So each of these are essentially all attainable. It just depends on how we set things up on if they will be attained. So let's say campaign number one, we are looking to get video views. We want to get eyes on content. This may be research that's been done. This may be showing off some great work that the team has done. It may be for promotion for, some new content. We have to pick very specific things within those platforms to make that happen. If I were to set up the first campaign with the optimization goals of donations, it would not probably find those video views very efficiently. It would be a much more expensive view, and there's just better ways that we could do it. Same thing with website visits. If I'm looking to get people to my site, I don't want to optimize for views. I want to optimize for people that actually click to a site and get there, which is funny enough, different than people who just click on an ad. There's actually even down to the level of we can optimize based on the click of the ad or actually getting to the landing page. So for all of these, it's about being as specific as possible and making sure that we're aligned with goals all the way through that campaign.
Let's talk a little bit more about goals. Different goals require different campaigns.
Sure. I mean, different type of campaigns have different, if you want to call it, we can have one huge campaign that can have different goals that work together. Like one is, I need to build an audience. How do I build an audience at the most cost-effective way? Then I need a goal that allows me to reach the most amount of people possible, right? So I can have a campaign set up as an awareness campaign, and its goal and its conversion must be reach or engagement. And its job, it's not to get a sale, it's not to get a click, it's just to spread out the message and reach out for engagement. So if we are adding that into a campaign strategy, we would add a creative that says, what we're trying to achieve or generate interest in our brand, and that creative is going to go and spread a long way and reach the most amount of users to spread that message. It's not going to be able it's going to have as a goal to send people to a site or find a different type of person. Then when we start going down the funnel and we want a sale, we want return on investment, we want to hit revenue, we can't send an ad, out to the wild and say, hey, go get me some sales. Right? Mm-hmm. That used to work about 10 years ago. Now, there's so much competition. There's so many eyes out there that you really have to harvest your audience. And what you do is you build this second campaign, this fundraising campaign that is going to retarget everyone who already got reached on the first campaign. And then you make those two campaigns work together. And that way, when you're asking for a donation and you're hitting them for some revenue, it's the second or third digital touch point that they've seen on the brand with this message. And that usually works very, very well. For example, like on Meta and doing this tactic as getting awareness and then retargeting for any type of an investment that you want there.
I think too, an important piece here is a lot of times you can see, especially new clients, you'll get into these awareness campaigns. They may not be generating revenue. Maybe they don't even get people to the website, and they may get nervous about that because especially when you first start spending money, you want to see results. You want to bring those back to show success. But it is important to remember that even though our ultimate goal is to raise money, we have to make those deposits. So to go back to the conversation we had last week, we have to make those deposits early so that we can withdraw later. So the judgment of these campaigns can't be only on the end result. It has to be in each step. So we judge those awareness campaigns based on awareness tactics and what we know is most important in that phase. So it's just important that you make sure that, especially within your own teams, that you're educating, especially upstream, of, hey, this one, it's not full revenue and that's okay, but here's the things that are working and here's how we know that down funnel, things are going to be healthy once we get to those other campaigns.
Okay. The next slide, we talk about not everybody is ready for the ask. I think we even had a slide last week that said, so I've set up my tracking, I've set up my creatives, I've decided my budget, I'm starting to run ads on my platform. Can I just ask for money? And of course, we collectively said no, but let's talk through this a little bit more.
Yeah, this is essentially exactly what I was just talking about. You don't go in the first time you meet someone and ask them to go on a date, typically, right? So it's the same way in fundraising. We have to get to know the people that we're talking to. We have to tell them about ourselves, what makes us worthwhile, and why they should invest in whatever PBS station, library it may be. And that takes time. It takes work, and it takes actual solid content. Typically, what that's going to look like is they're going to see you. They're going to want to learn more. They may engage with some of your content. Maybe they go into a search and try to find more on their own. They may go to an LLM and do the same thing. They'll then take that next step of, hey, let's go to their website and actually read their content and see the things that are coming out. Let's look for more information. Maybe they join an email list. Maybe they follow your page on Meta. And then they become a donor. So it takes a lot of steps to get there, typically. But
Yep.
what we have seen is that if you do make those deposits, eventually they do come through. Jody has a question. What is an LLM? That's essentially all of the consumer-facing AI that you see now is language learning models. So really, it's AI that's based on those language predictions. So whatever they may be doing to search you out, whether that be AI, whether that be Google search, they're going to do that next level of digging around.
I mean, for me to add here is if you want to bring it to the day-to-day as us, everybody here using Instagram, just and look at it. When you start reverse engineering these funnels, you'll see them working. You'll get hit up with a product on Instagram, and this is going to be e-commerce, not donation, but it's the same flow, and you're going to see it once. And then you're probably going to see a static image about it. And then you're going to get hit with like 3, 4 videos of UGC, that's user generated contents, people using the product. And that's pretty much the same thing they're doing. They are throwing a white net of see who's interested in this product, then retargeting with more of the product, more of the product. So you're doing group 1, group 2, and then group 3, most probably it's an ad that's running, pushing people to their site where they're going to have, conversion events. And that's where you either lift a donation or make a sale. So the strategy still doesn't change. You use the platforms with the same strategy to create a whole funnel.
I think the thing that's cool about this, so I'll take y'all on a little question journey for a moment. So how many of you all have ever been searching or just on the internet and you see an ad and you're like, how the heck do they know that I was thinking about that or talking about that with my significant other or friend? And you are convinced that they are targeting you based on listening to your phone. I'm going to spoil your day. They're not. We would love it if they were. If they are, it's a huge scandal. However, if we could buy it, I promise we would, and we would tell you all about it, but I cannot buy that type of targeting. But what it is a good reminder of is that these funnels work because a lot of times you do not know yourself as well as you think that you do because you are a part of a profile. So what this does is this helps us match you with those profiles. So if a funnel was built properly, like this is about the new prospects, your interested audience, your supporters, you're going to get work down that funnel in a way that feels so natural that it seems like magic. And that is a good sign of a funnel that is fully fleshed. and that you are getting messaging based on where you are within that sales funnel. So a good reminder for you all, it's not magic. It's just very, very solid planning, and it's writing for where you are.
I definitely have wondered if they were listening.
Listen, I have sat in a marketing conference room and talked about things to try to make it happen so many times.
Yes.
Sometimes it can work, but the good thing to remember is that you are never as unique as you think you are, and it's very hard to say, but you fit a profile. And if
Yes.
you are thinking about a product, you've probably already seen it. It's like when you get a car, you start seeing your car everywhere. It's because you're thinking
Mhm.
about the car more. So typically, that's how that.
Yes, yes. Okay, I'm gonna go through this just to solidify it, but then we're gonna go on and we're gonna talk about what retargeting is, what the funnel, we've all heard of the funnel is, building audiences, and then attribution. So to summarize what we've just said, think about your audience in groups. You have group one, brand new prospects. They've never heard of your station. As much as it pains us to think that, there are people out there that really have not heard of our stations very much. Group two, interested audiences. They may watch a video or engage with some of your content, maybe free content before the paywall. Group three, supporters. They visit regularly. They subscribe. They're on your website often, reading articles, those kinds of things. And then donors who already support your mission. So each group should receive different messaging. Let's talk about what retargeting is. And you sort of were talking about that a little bit, Chad, but we can go into the creepy, wonderful creepiness that it is.
Yeah, this is where it does get a little bit sci-fi and creepy. Retargeting is really just talking to people who have shown some type of an interest already based on their actions. So that can be visiting a website, that can be watching a community impact video, that can be seeing your actual promotion. Whatever that may be, it's really just seeing your content at some point, whether it be getting to their website, and then we can target those people with further messaging. So instead of us having to, come at them with a message that is very introductory, and is actually past or a little bit previous to where they are in their sales journey. We can meet them where they are. We can start answering some of the questions that they likely have. This is a good time for you to look at your FAQ and start to answer questions with your copy. So it's, what are the pain points that people typically run into? What are those conversations that are happening? And so this is kind of what that flow would look like. Let's say Monday, a user gets served one of your community impact videos. We then can target those people based on segments within, let's say, Meta, just for fun. I can target people based on engaging with our content. So then we can serve them a passport promotion. From there, I can then further down the funnel with one of our actual donation campaigns, target all of the people that we've spoken to in that passport promotion in the last, let's say, 180 days. And we can make sure that those people then get to ask. It's, hey, you know about the content, you know about the impact that we've made. You want to make that deposit? Do you want to come back and give after we've given to you? So we've deposited twice now into them. Now it's time for us to say, hey, we think that it would make sense for you to give. You seem to have some engagement and some interest in what we're doing. Would you like to contribute yourself? So what that message does is it lets us jump to that conversation instead of having to reintroduce the product. We can actually just jump down funnel and say, hey, you already know about the great things that we're doing. Let's get you involved and let's plug you in.
I
Yeah,
have
and
a
oh, go ahead. Oh,
really quick question. What would you say the average length of time is between somebody seeing your content and actually being asked for a donation?
It's a great question. Length of time is going to be dependent on the user. So the time is less important. It's more about the engagement level. So let's
Okay.
say that I come in and I learn about it. I've got, a couple things going on. I learn about more in another week. It's really about how many touch points. I think at
Okay.
this point we're at 14 touch points before a purchase. Donations are a little bit more. But that's really what we're looking at. So it brings up a great point. Frequency. I love to talk about frequency. People freak out about frequency, but it's a good reminder that you really do need about 14 touch points before you can get an investment from a user. And
Okay.
like I said, donations, it can be much more. So the time in this day and age is less important. It's more about the engagement level.
Would you?
And go ahead.
I'm so sorry,
No
Luis. I
worries.
only have one other question and I'll rest my case.
You got it.
Um, those 14 touch points, are those also direct mail as a touch point, email as a touch point, seeing your content on Passport, but then the digital ads, all of those are part of the 14 touch points? Yes, sir.
Even your organic. So if someone sees your station sign as they're driving through town, if they see a video that got posted, however they are engaging with you, that's how it works. Now, that 14 touch point, that comes from data that's based on things that happen online. However, what we know from running campaigns that are more tradigital, a mixture of traditional and digital advertising, is that those traditional touch points also matter tremendously. So even outside of the work that we're doing in your paid advertising, even that work outside of just you all being online, the things that happen on their TV screens, that happen in real life, that happen at engagements, events, those things all count. And those deposits all still count toward that 14. Now, the 14, it's not like we have to hit a magic number. I'm sure, people that are going to donate after hearing about us once. However, average is what we know. So that's kind of how we get there.
Okay, Luis.
Yeah, no, I was going to say that retargeting also is a very powerful tool. It's not only about, getting anybody to a donation, but you got to understand that the average time watched of content is really not that high. So if you use retargeting as a tool, as an advantage, you can use it very powerfully to tell a story. So if you ever have a complicated product, event, or something that needs to be said in several digital touch points, that is a great way also to segment people. So I can say, hey, video one, I want you to say this. And then only people who saw video one get video two. And then the same goes on for video three. So you can tell a story about a complicated product, or, just follow up on a huge series of stories to get people engaged and not having them see the same ad over and over. You can do a ladder breakdown of, if you see this one, you get this one. After this one, you get that one. And then you can tell a complete story. And then from a digital advertiser's point of view, you can say, hey, anybody who's seen the 10 videos, they are going to get the ask, because I know that they've seen all that. And then that's how you start working strategy to, send the message and then develop whatever goal you have on the campaign.
I appreciate you quantifying the seeing 10 times. Those
Yeah.
kinds of options exist.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so we've talked about this, but to say it again, this is the funnel. You've seen so many funnels,
Yeah.
but you think about how you make your own purchase. You don't see an ad online and instantly pull out your credit card and buy it immediately. I think I've done that once, but usually I like to make the I like to make them pay for my purchase, watch an ad 20 times. Um, so I'll notice something. I might research the product to go and learn more. And then at a later time, a day, 2 weeks, 3 weeks later, I might make a purchase once I've thought it through and seen the ad a number of times.
Exactly. I mean, like me, I am I'm a clicker. Like when I see an ad that I like, I click it so it opens a tab. I have like 2,000 open tabs on my computer, on things that I like, on my phone, on things that I like, and then I'll go later and check. But sometimes I don't even have to go check, because I'll probably get an ad for it again, and then I'm like, ah, there you go, and I know what they're doing. So that's how it works. Some people are busy, and you at as point number one says, you notice something, you become intrigued with it, you click it, take an action, and then you've entered the funnel. That's how we say it. And then you get retargeted about it, you get more information, and then if you like it and the product's good, it leads to a sale. So that's the funnel works at the same time also, because if you see on the screen 1, 2, 3, 4, reaching those 4 different audiences have different price levels. And they are more expensive. The metric CPM, cost per 1,000 impressions. If I say, hey, I want sales immediately, I'm starting a store today, a new product, and I want sales. All right. I tell Meta, go get me some sales. My conversion event is going to be purchases. Go. And my ad has no information, has no data about, who's clicked, who added to the cart or anything. And probably it's going to cost me like probably $300 to make a sale let's
Mhm.
call it a $30 product, right? Because Meta needs to find out everything, who's going to watch video views or something, and you're diving directly into stage four without no data. But if I do, hey, I want, here's my product, get me some video views, and here's $50. Most probably I won't get a sale, but what I'll get is I'll get people who clicked, people who watch my video for let's say half of it or something, and then I can spend another $10 retargeting those people, and then most probably there I've increased my chances of making a sale. And that's the whole idea of building a funnel, and you know um, not wasting your budget on tactics that are really not going to move your needle at the
Mhm.
correct stage.
Okay. Okay. So, we just to reinforce the strongest programs have all invest in all three of these: awareness, ads, engagement, donations. Before we go on, and I think we will talk about this a little bit later on, but I think it's interesting. I have heard you two say that Meta, specifically Instagram and Facebook, are good at for selling tangible items. Can we talk about that for a moment?
I would love, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
People trust because Meta has done this for a very long time. Google and Instagram, from a social media standpoint, is really where money is made because they've been around the longest. It's the same in TV. Hulu, from a streaming standpoint, has by far the best ad product in streaming because they've been doing it the longest. So they've learned a ton. And what that's done is consumers typically now trust. Now, I'm telling you that people trust Meta, and that can sound a little crazy, but people choose with their dollar. And the fact is that people continue to use the sites and they continue to spend on those based on the ads that they see. So, yeah, Luis, do you want to add to that?
No, I was just gonna say that now you gotta understand how socials work, and especially the whole pixel thing. You don't need to even buy something out of Instagram directly for Meta or Instagram to know that you are what you're buying, right? Because all they need to do is whatever page you're buying on, if it has the Facebook pixel, it's sending that signal saying, "Hey, this user, this Instagram just bought these pair of jeans," as an example, right? And they know that you just bought jeans. And they probably have this algorithm and data knowing of people who bought jeans are, most probably this is gonna be their second, third purchase or what, and then that starts segmenting you. So it works for physical products, but at the same time for non-physical products. So for donations, for going to events, for buying tickets, it's the same process. All you got to do is really work on your stages of getting people aware about it, getting people segmented about it, and then working on your communication to getting that final push in there.
Okay, okay. So I'll just go through the next slide quickly because I want to get us to a couple more slides down. Um, we don't want to treat everybody the same. When we talk about audiences, just want to say useful audience groups, your website visitors, you can retarget those people, email subscribers, you can certainly incorporate the email addresses that you have. Let's pause. How do you incorporate the email addresses you have into Google and Meta? You upload them into Google and Meta for the purposes of running campaigns and targeting those people. Yes.
Correct, yes. So we can actually target those people directly. We can make audiences based on them in terms of lookalikes.
Yep.
But yeah, we directly upload and then we piece them out from there.
And those on the line today, how many of you are importing your donor lists or email lists into Google and Meta to run campaigns? I am just curious to learn. Other useful audience groups, passport users, event attendees, and video viewers. So those are some of the people that we've talked about. Okay, let's talk about attribution. Gentlemen, I'm going to go through this and we can dig in. What is attribution and why is it so difficult? It is so difficult and emotional and painful. So Monday, I see a Facebook ad for your station. Wednesday, I get an email Friday, I'm curious about something, so I search, and then on Saturday, I make a donation. Now, which department gets the credit for this? Is it the digital department that books the ads on Facebook? Is it the marketing department that sent me an email about something? Is it the web team that's optimized your beautiful website so that I want to come back and have a great time? And is it the search team? Is it who gets credit for this?
So, all right, this is a rabbit hole that that we could probably spend the next 2 days talking about it and not finish because the answer is like it says it's really all of them, but at the same time, us as a marketer, we have to find out really which one is the one that's bringing in the money, right? So this is where this has improved a lot over the past 2 years. That now it's not a conversion ad that's bringing in the sales. Now it becomes a conversion path, right? So it's not only one tactic that's doing it. It's all of them together, and that's where you start planning your user behavior. And just like you have on screen, all right. So our conversion path is they start on Facebook, all right, but they don't buy there. They go through Google. Then your job is we need to make sure that we have when we run our awareness campaign on Facebook, that we run ads on Google, because if we're not, somebody's running ads and they're basically taking our traffic, or we're paying their traffic for free. Because if we're only running ads on Meta and then somebody else is running ads on the same keywords that we're running, they're siphoning, our user base to their goals. So that's another part of defending your brand and getting it together. So going back to attribution, you're probably going to see, and we see it a lot, that Meta says, hey, we got a sale. And then Google says, hey, we got a sale. That's the importance of having analytics, which kind of mixes it all together. And you can get some clarity on, all right, what's really going on here? What's my conversion path? And then you can really, once you get attribution real going, you can really deep dive and say, all right, what's the phone? What's that people are using that's bringing out sales, or we're getting the best bang for our buck. We can probably say, hey, look, people who use Android are really not buying versus our iPhone users. All right, let's cut out iPhone out of the way. So it's good to get attribution, because then you can start cutting the fat of what's not working, and then all right, let's leave what's working on.
So go ahead, Chad. And then we have two questions from the audience.
It's also super important to remember this. So in the same way that when we set up a campaign, we have to think about what the goal is. When you look at a platform, you also have to have that same conversation with yourself. So Google and Meta are very, very different places. Google, obviously further down funnel, typically. So we have to judge them in that way as well. So I would expect typically your Google spend is going to be more efficient than your Meta spend in a conversion campaign. That's not always true, but typically it is. So whenever we look at attribution, it's also important to think of it in the context of what you're doing, where you're running, and what your goals are. Because let's say that we're running display ads. I know, Kate, I saw that you guys were talking about connected TV and display ads with your mid-level giving. There's nothing wrong with running those. That's a really good tactic if your expectation is that it's high funnel. If your expectation is that you're trying to inform and educate, that's fantastic. And that's a very good thing. If your goal is for people to click from those ads and go make a donation immediately, then your expectations are likely out of order with what's consumer behavior with those types of platforms. So to me, I see that question of display ads and connected TV. Not that that's not a very good strategy, but it's a piece of that funnel, right? You're looking higher to your upper funnel where people are still learning and they're getting educated. Then you want to follow that up with a closer like a Meta or a Google. So to me, it's good, but there's probably a second part of that puzzle that has to come in a little bit further down.
No, awesome. And I was going to say that great question on that one. And that one is also like for next week, where we're really going to deep dive all that stuff. But I'll do a little preview, because that question that Kate asked kind of encompasses everything we've discussed. Number one, yes, it's awesome to run connected TV ads because you can do several things. And going a little bit advanced on connected TV, we can target, people who've watched certain different type of shows, on what type of networks they're on. So we can kind of filter who our target audience is if we're looking for donors. But like Chad said, if we're trying to create awareness and our ask is to get donations there, that tactic needs to be part of a complete funnel. So my goal, my conversion path to get, a successful attribution is, all right, I'm going to run CTV ads with the goal of getting that user or getting that home that saw that ad into my retargeting funnel for them to either get emails, they get retargeted on any other type of network. So I use that as, if you want to call it, the spear to find my audience to later get retargeted, and then that's how you start mixing in different tactics to get it working. And going back to the attribution, creating a conversion path, and that's how you design it. Hey, I'm running awareness ads on Meta, I'm running awareness ads on CTV, on XYZ shows, and then I'm retargeting them on these platforms, which I know that convert. And once you know on those stages of the funnel what converts, that's where you really go to expand and scale.
Excellent. Thank you. I do have another question. Um, let's see, if someone were to send email addresses of people sent to us as the agency that does their ad campaigns or use these lists, people who watch a certain show on Passport, so they know that I watch Call the Midwife and that Chad watches This Old House or whatever it might be. Um, would we be able to target those folks with promotions for the next season of something? So it would be something similar to what we watch. So watch Call the Midwife, and then I'm interested in Grantchester or something like that, and Chad's interested in whatever it might be. Um, do you need if you're segmenting that highly, I'm in a certain category, Chad's in a different category. Do you need a certain amount of email addresses to import and start to target people in that way? Would you recommend that kind of segmentation? What are your thoughts?
It
Well,
depends. If
go
it's like,
ahead.
oh, I'm so sorry. Go ahead.
No, no, do it. You got it.
I say it depends. If it's like a Ken Burns release, sorry, y'all, my puppy is like begging for a pet, so I will pet as I talk. Um, it like a Ken Burns release, something that's very large, it's gonna have a huge audience. Yes, we could do a breakout. If it's something that's a little bit more niche, you can do it. It's not as typical. The in terms of the actual specifics, we need 1,000 matched within a list to be able to run it typically. Now that's not 1,000 people on a list because it's actually got a match, and your match rate can be anywhere from 50 to 80%. But and when I say match, just to make sure, matching users within a platform to your actual users on your list. So just because we upload 1,000 names doesn't mean that Meta or Google is going to be able to associate those with their actual users. They may have opted out of their email being shared. They may be in California where things are just different on how they share. So there's all kinds of things all kinds of variables there. But yeah, that's kind of how that goes.
Yeah, and then at the same time, even if you don't have the list, and you can start. There are different tactics. I'll throw an acronym out there. It's called ACR, Automated Content Recognition, and what that does is it allows for these networks for programmatic networks to match what was shown on TV versus what a user was watching, right? So, are our screens being recorded? No. What they're doing is that they're matching what content was on TV and compared to a database of images that ran, and then that's how you can say, hey, I want to show my ad to anybody who was watching the World Cup last night, and that's how you create these audiences. So if you want to tie it down, your TV, it's kind of like socials also because it's the same thing. It's a behavior based network targeting.
Okay, excellent. So to wrap up attribution, looking beyond the last click, we've talked about this. Questions to ask, did awareness increase? And I think these are internal questions before your team gets stuck on something. If you can control the narrative with other team members and management, be asking yourself, did awareness increase? Did our engagement and audience grow? Did we see traffic to our website increase? Did our email list grow? Such a beautiful metric. Did fundraising improve? So very important.
Christina, a practical example of this is a sustainer campaign. So just to make sure we're all familiar with the word sustainer, I know that we are because we're all PBS people here. But with sustainers, people that give monthly. A lot of times, if you run a sustainer campaign, your ROI is going to be super close to a one, which is like if you spend $100, you get $100 back. Because these are long-term gifts, we're going to have a smaller amount or smaller gift amount. So whenever you run, say, a sustainer campaign, we want to look at what you all know as the life of your typical sustainer. How long do they typically give? And think about it in those terms. Now, we don't want to catch chickens before they hatch. However, we do have to look at our eggs to make sure that we know the investment we made and what it actually did return. So that's a good one. I know that we've had a client very recently over the last year that has put a huge focus on sustainers, and they have had a ton of success. I think their sustainers are up 20,000 year over year.
Yep.
And that comes from after they were switching out payment systems. So fantastic results. However, if you look at the just dot ROI on the mark, it's probably pretty close to one. But when you look at it long term and what the life of those typical sustainers are, it has been fantastic. So a good thing to remember as you're looking is the context of that goal.
When you all are running sustainer campaigns, are you running them in quick spurts of maybe 2 weeks or 3 weeks? Are you running them annually? What are you doing? And this is all to say we have a lot of campaigns that we're running that are overlapping. So like our passport awareness campaigns are running all year long, and then our vehicle donation campaigns are running all year long for our clients, and then we do wealthy donor campaigns that are running all year long. But tell me about the frequency of the sustainer campaigns.
We actually do both. So we have some that will run year round, and we have some
Mhm.
that are short spurts. So Passport is literally the perfect example. Some of our clients treat Passport like an ongoing sustainer campaign that runs 12 months a year. We have language in there that talks about the $5 to $8 a month, depending on how you want to talk about it at this moment. Um, and they treat that like a sustainer campaign. We have others that don't, and that don't want to mention that monthly giving. They just want to talk about the value of the content. So it depends there. We also then will do these like shorter fundraisers that are, say, 4 to 6 weeks at time, and give a goal or give a message saying, hey, we're trying to achieve X. Here's what we're looking to do. And those would be more short term. But the way that we look at sustainer at the moment is if we do a more long term, it's typically going to fall in the realm of like a passport,
Mhm.
just because that's usually the most consistent value that we can deliver in terms of a tangible object. And then we do also have those short spurts. What we found is that one-time giving is more successful in those short spurts. However, we have seen, as we just mentioned, a really, really strong increase in a couple of our clients in sustainer gifts this year. I do think that the last year of news has helped with that. I
Mhm.
think that we've tried to lean into the messaging of we now need you all to come in and meet this gap. So I think that the moment that we're in has lended itself to more sustainers. But yeah.
Okay, thank you. So, with the time we have left, I want to just go ahead. We talked about this already. Common budget questions. Should we put everything into Google, for example? Usually, no. You want to be diversifying. We talked about how awareness matters, and digital fundraising is often compared to making a deposit into a savings account. Um, and then now I want to talk, just wrap things up with pitfalls. And then I want to tease next week and answer any questions our friends have on the chat. So, common pitfalls, measuring by clicks only, not a good thing to do. And it can be so hard to train other staff members to accept other metrics of success, but this is the way it is. Two, running fundraising appeals too early. So that means you haven't built a relationship with the potential donor and you're asking them for money right away. Pitfall three, showing the same message to everybody. As we talked about before, perhaps I love Call the Midwife and Chad loves This Old House, and we might see different ads. Or Jody loves news and Luis, you love nature programs. Maybe we should be seeing different ads.
Yeah.
And then pitfall number four, putting all of your budget into one channel, not good. By the way, how can you decide which channel to put your budget in? Let's say I only have $5,000 and my goal is to drive more passport signups.
Yeah, so number one there is exactly that. Who are we targeting to? Because, we live in an era now that every platform out there or network is kind of decided by its user base, right? And user base, it gets kind of, it's being filtered by age ranges, by behavior, what they do. Not to completely put everyone in a bucket, but for example, if we're looking for a more younger age or user, we would jump into maybe adding some TikTok into our strategy. But it depends on what our goals are, what are we trying to do? Are we trying to get an install or are we trying to get, a user to be engaged? It depends where you would add it. And yes, if you have let's call it a small budget of 5,000 or something, you would try to shrink your platform selection probably at two at max, right? Three is a stretch because once you start adding more platforms, one, workload increases to maintaining those, but at the same time, your daily dollar spend gets diluted. And then that's what you don't want to happen. And the common mistake is I want to be everywhere on every single one. And then you're spending $1 a day on each one and you get no impressions. So it's a mix of creating that strategy for it. Now, if you are growing and you can expand, we've had a client who expanded to 7 platforms this past year and they blew every single record across the board, compared to just running 2 years ago on just 2 networks. And it's that because you are having different users move into different platforms. You have Snapchat, you have TikTok, you have Meta, you have Instagram. Not everybody's on the same ones. There's about a 30 to 40% overlap on each one. So there's an opportunity to also go look for new users, and approach them.
We just mentioned something in passing that I think is such a good tidbit that people forget about. When you look at spend, always think about daily. Always think about how much cash is in there daily because you look at $5,000, that feels like some cash, right? Split that between 3 platforms, 365 days, and it gets real small. And so it's very important that you don't lose sight of we have to make sure that we have enough cash to make an impact in that audience because we have to look at what the size of the audience is within that time frame. And so I think that Louis' fantastic point that gets overlooked a lot. Think about your daily when you set your budgets.
Good. Excellent. Okay, moving on to our wrap up. And our tease. Final thoughts, questions to ask before every campaign, before launch. Who is this campaign for? What action do we want them to take? How will we measure success? How will we measure management's perception of our measurement of success? Is everybody on board? After launch, did we reach the right audience? Did we engage and improve? What worked? What surprised us? What should we test next? Chad, I was going to ask you from another slide, how often are you in platform adjusting a station's campaigns to optimize them?
Oh, that's a great question. It'll depend on the different platforms, but we don't want to tweak too much. We want to give things time to learn. Tweak is a funny word. A lot of times it's pulling levers of on and off. So let's say we're running a campaign for a month. I may go in there 2 to 3 times after the first 2 weeks to either turn things off, turn them on, wherever that may be. But before that, we have to get learning in. So if we tweak with a campaign, if we tweak a campaign too much before quote unquote learning phase is over, then it resets that phase. And all a learning phase is a set period of time that a platform needs to be able to optimize for the results that you're looking for. Luis alluded to this earlier with the video views. So once you get to a certain number of video views, then the campaign really kicks off and it will spin more, and it will run a little bit faster. That's what we try to prevent, is we don't want to get in the way of that. The thing to remember is that we have done a lot of this work and we plan meticulously. And so typically, the setup there is not what we want to tweak. It's the messaging that is hitting or the ads that are hitting. So it's turning things off that are spinning and not getting the results that we want. and turning things on whenever we think it needs to come back. So
Okay.
that's it. It's typically on like a month-long campaign, I'd probably touch it no more than 5 times.
Okay, great. All right, so looking ahead to next week, advanced digital strategy call. So this will be webinar 3. We'll be discussing connected TV, which we touched on a bit today, cross-platform audience strategies. Luis said something about a group that we're working with that's now on 7 different platforms this year, so we can chat about that.
Yeah.
Reaching younger audiences, that is another group we're working with where they're looking for 18 to 25-year-olds. How do you even reach 18 to 25-year-olds and find them in a critical mass and get them interested in your mission? We'll talk about that. And then multi-channel campaigns, advanced measurement and attribution. We'll dig deep. It'll make your head hurt. And then scaling a successful program. And with that, if we have any questions from the audience, we will take those now. I understand that it is the afternoon before a long holiday weekend. I thank you all very much for being with us, and I hope you will join us next week for some of these topics. By the way, if there is anything you would like us to cover next week in the advanced session, please send me an email, and I am happy to put that on the agenda. We can talk about anything you like. With that, I will wrap us up and say thanks, friends, for being here today. Thank you to our audience. We will send out this recording and we will see you next week. Have a good long weekend.